Bigger threat right now, Cowboys or Eagles, Shay?
Really?
Really?
Now, one team came to San Francisco, got beat down 42-10. The other team, the 49ers, took their show on the road, beat them down. And Jalen Hurts had 196 yards. All that little 19, that little extra little points that they got late in the ball game, that's cleanup. And Jerry talking about, oh, it's never the same. Jerry, they beat you 3 times. They beat you in the playoffs 2 years ago, beat you in the playoffs last year, and they beat you down this year. They like Debo, beat you down, beat them down too.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, Shannon.
I mean, guys, this is really hard because I don't think either one of these teams, if they play the 49ers again, I don't believe either team, honestly, God honest truth, I don't believe either team can beat the 49ers. That's how good the 49ers are. And I understand how well Dak is throwing the football. But they can't beat the 49ers. And the Eagles, they too weak on the back end. They too weak on the back end. But if you make me pick, and that's what we do on this show, I'll take the Cowboys just because. But I don't think either team, being honest, can beat the 49ers.
Right now, I feel the same way that you do, but I will say this. If I had to pick one of the teams, it would be the Cowboys. I think they have a better shot, believe it or not. In all fairness, I mean, I'm not going to troll them today. I'll save it. You know, but here's what I'm looking at. Dak Prescott's last 4 starts against the Eagles, 3-1 record, 38.8 points per game. Okay? 74% completions, 14 TD passes, just 2 turnovers. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about Philly going into Dallas this weekend. I'm thinking about Philly having 3 games in 13 days. I'm thinking about them getting beat up and being tired, and I can see them losing this game. If they lose the division, because right now the momentum is on Dallas' side, not Philadelphia, in my humble opinion. Because of that, I could see Dallas winning the division. If you win the division and you have home field advantage, at least, you know, until you go against San Francisco, unless you get the #1 overall seed. Let's just hypothetically say they could get the #1 seed with their offense. We know what they do defensively, because defensively, when you look at the Eagles right now, total defense, they were ranked #2 last year. Second-ranked defense, they're 23rd now. Scoring defense, 24th now. Pass defense, 29th, allowing 278 pass yards per game. You just look at the Eagles right now, and they're a shell of what they once were defensively. Offensively, I believe in A.J. Brown. I believe in Dante Smith. They don't have Dallas Goedert.
But they can't run the ball like they could last year.
I understand that, but I like Swift. I like Swift and Gainwell, and I think they could do some things. I wouldn't sleep on them. The issue is Dallas Goedert being out, not having that reliable weapon.
He's going to be back
in the spot. And then on top of it all, we hope that he's going to be back healthy enough to do what he can do. But then defensively, they're just too shallow right now. I got concerns about the Eagles.
I'm going to disagree with y'all. Here's the thing. I think we're prisoners of the moment at times. This Eagles team played a bad game against San Francisco, right? And here's why I would say it was a bad game. They have 2 drives in the first half. They could have been up 14-0. Okay? So you and I both know 14-0 looks totally different for that San Francisco offense than 6-0. So they can get back in the game a totally different way. They get to the halftime, what is it, 13-6? Isn't that a halftime score? And then they get boat race the second half. That's the 3 games in 13 days issue, in my opinion. Because you have seen Philadelphia be much more physical than it was against San Francisco in that second half. So I would say this. If I had to pick, I'm going to pick the Eagles. And I'm going to say it because of it. They find ways to win. And they find ways to win against really good teams. Let's not forget, they beat the Dolphins. They beat the Cowboys that y'all are talking about. They beat the Chiefs and the Bills, okay? And the Bills scored 30-whatever points, and Josh Allen is an absolute beast, converting 3rd and longs all over the place. They played a poor game. They gave up explosive plays. I talked about it before on SportsCenter when we were going the week. The problem for the 49ers, for the Eagles, was they are so many weapons that San Fran has. Whether it's Debo, Ayuk, whether it's McCaffrey, whether it's Kittle, there's so many different ways they can hit you. And what happened was you saw the snowball getting speed, and then they took the top of it off. You know, Debo scores 2 basic pitches over the middle. 1, he takes yards. 1's a screen, he takes yards. But when you think about Philadelphia, don't underestimate this team will find ways. And by the way, their defensive edges played poorly against San Fran. They got way too vertical deep in the backfield, which gave them way too many opportunities to put their foot in the ground and get north and south. They won't do that again. Their defense, and you said the biggest point, their defense has struggled. They've struggled in 3rd downs to get off the field. They've struggled against San Fran. but it's fixable. They tackle better against that team in San Fran. It looks different. They are a better, to me, they are a better roster than Dallas.
Okay, fine.
They are a better roster.
But
so if they play to their potential, they're the biggest threat to San Fran. And by the way, San Fran's better than everybody.
Let me ask it. San Francisco is better than everybody. Let's talk for a second about what kind of effect a beatdown has on a team, like the Eagles. Dallas is different. You get beat down, you get beat down. Okay, we fine, but you are what you are. But you are what you are. With the Philadelphia Eagles, because they had been, double-digit deficits coming back 4 consecutive games, eventually you knew something was going to come back and bite them, and it was the San Francisco 49ers. But because of what I just highlighted about their defensive deficiencies compared to last year, when you couple that with the beatdown that they just experienced, what kind of effect does that have on the Eagles moving forward?
I think it's actually positive. I think it's going to be exactly what happened to Dallas, right? You look yourself in the mirror and go, hey, man, we've been living on a razor-thin edge for way too long. We got to get back to fundamentals and basics of what we do. Philly, we're going to have to use disguise more. We can't show up and play San Fran and just think that we're going to be better than them and line up and let them know exactly what we're going to do. They can read our mail and we think we can just go compete. Let's do something a little bit different. If you're Philly, you understand you got to make things happen in the red zone. You actually have to convert those touchdowns early in the game to give yourself that lead to make San Fran play. Let me ask you this: if you give me a formula to beat San Francisco and they've lost 3 games, what is the formula? The formula is to make Brock Purdy beat you from the pocket and go through. You can't let them be dual threat, which they were against Philly all day, and think you're going to stop them, because they're going to make mincemeat out of your linebacker. So at some point, you got to make them play to their second level. And right now, Philly or Dallas couldn't do that.
Who's your pick to win the AFC right now?
I'm going to roll with the Ravens. Certainly, props to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Despite the loss last night, you just feel for them. Trevor Lawrence, that was just a nasty injury. I just hope somehow, some way he's going to be okay. I appreciate Coach Peterson lying to the American public, talking about they got the utmost confidence in CJ. CJ,
you got a lot sometimes, Steve.
2-10 as a start. 2-10 as a start. I got it. I appreciate the lies. I appreciate the lies to the public. It makes perfect sense. I understand it. But at the end of the day, I think that when we're looking at what we're looking at, we got to look at the Baltimore Ravens. And the reason I say that is because you got the #1 defense in points allowed, #2 in yards allowed, top 2 against the pass. And when you consider what everybody's throwing in your direction, it's not like you got to worry about Derrick Henry, for crying out loud, running the football down your throat. Most teams that are going to try to beat you are going to try to beat you through the air as opposed to on the ground. And so when I think about Miami, when I think about Cincinnati, now that they're compromised, even though Brown played lights out last night, major props to him, 32 of 37, 354 yards, something. He was absolutely spectacular performance. You see Kansas City, you can't ignore them, of course, because of Patrick Mahomes with Travis Kelce. But when you look at the most complete team in the AFC, based on the competition, based on what they're getting from the quarterback position, combining that based on what you're getting from your defense, there's no question in my mind the Baltimore Ravens should be that team in the AFC.
I agree with everything you said. I believe outside of the San Francisco 49ers, the Baltimore Ravens are the most complete team in football. But here's something that's going to shock you. If you look at them statistically, the Baltimore Ravens are better than the 49ers. The thing that's cost them is late game turnovers. They clean those up. This team could easily be undefeated. But when you get Lamar Jackson, and we know they can run the football against anybody, Lamar Jackson has turned himself into a better passer. So now, as long as they can, Saturday and Stephen A. can avoid the late game turnover, the late game costly, because all turnovers aren't created equal, ladies and gentlemen. The later the game goes, the turnovers, you start to pay double. And so if they can clean that up, because if you look at them, first in sacks, first in points allowed, second in pass defense, second in total defense, third in red zone defense is where you make your money, because you make them settle for field goals, you go down and get touchdowns. The Ravens, for me, look, and I understand, I've got to see Miami do it against top competition. I see what they did against Commanders. I see what they do against Carolina. I get it, and they're fun to watch. Tyreek is having a historically great receiving season. We know what they can run the football with most of it. He has like 13, 14 touchdowns. A-Town is back. But I've got to see them do it against top-level competition. So right now, for me, my pick would be the Ravens.
I'm gonna go Miami. And listen, I'm with you on the hadn't beaten. I'm with you. Like I agree. There's always something for that. But I will say this about them: since Ramsey got back, they're the #1 defense in the league, right? So Ramsey comes back, it totally changes their defense. They are, I don't know if sneaky's the right word, a much more physical team offensively than people think they are.
Okay.
Because of what you said, with Mostert, with Achane, like the way they can play, and then you have Hill, you have Waddle, you have the ability to go score and go be explosive. I think when I think about the Ravens, I think about the Ravens having to win really in one way. Right, like if the Ravens get behind, if the Ravens for some reason spot a team 14,
yeah, it's tough.
It's going to be tough for them to come back, right? Like we watched Miami spot Kansas City 21 and come back and be in that game. I know they lose 21-14, but we've seen them and they have that type of offense that can put up points in a hurry. My concern for Baltimore, and as good as I think they are, because I do think they are a top AFC team and one of the top 2 for me, is I get concerned in style of play, because you and I both know when you hit the playoffs, it's really about your matchup.
Right.
It has very little to do with how good your team is on certain, but it's your matchup on it. If you get an explosive team that puts up points in a hurry, I think it's tough for the Ravens to come back from that. All that being said, I think Miami has progressively gotten better through the year. You can't help who you play, and I mean it's and the big games they play, they haven't scored the points you would want to see them score. I just for some reason think Mike McDaniel is molding this team as the season goes on, and they're going to have and listen, if they get the 1 seed. Playing at home is massive for them because of all the motion they use, because of all the way they want to split the sets. The communication is going to be vital. But them getting home field is going to matter for them.